I love hearing how you guys describe the atmosphere and the feeling after you got back to Provo. It's happened after, road games when you come back on the plane, but particularly this last weekend. What's that like when you come back and there's thousands of people waiting for you in the middle of the night?
Oh, it was insane. We got back at 3 a.m. We couldn't even get off the bus. There were so many fans. There's no fan base like this one. It amazes me every single week. I thought it was cool when we had hundreds of fans getting off the plane at the airport, but then you get off the bus and there's thousands of fans, and you're scrolling on social media on your way there and you see fans rushing the streets, and I was scared for the fans. You see cars honking and they're just running out there mindlessly, but it speaks to this fan base that we have, and shout out to them. They're amazing.
What's that like as a player, just seeing all of that enthusiasm, and you guys knew how great this fan base is, beforehand, but as it's escalated, as you guys have won and had this success, what is that experience and those emotions like?
It gives you another reason to play. I mean, it's amazing when you have your family behind you, but it's even more amazing when you have your family and then you have thousands and thousands of fans cheering for you. I mean, we see how it is with teams down on that south side of the end zone when they're trying to run the ball or pass the ball on the rock. The center can't hear. They have trouble with communication. So it's awesome. I love it.
Thanks, Jared. We'll take your next questions from John Kuhn and then Sean Walker.
Special teams wise, BYU has consistently been able to produce touchdowns, field goals from that phase week to week. Obviously, Utah, you had 3 field goals from Will Ferrin, touchdown return by Keelan Marion. From the defensive side of things, how much of a difference maker is that consistent special teams play for you guys, and kind of does it make it easier to do what you're doing when you see what they're doing?
Oh, it definitely does. I mean, when you can trust all 3 phases of the football and all 3 phases of the game are rolling, it's awesome. It's awesome when you have a kicker that's reliable. It's awesome when you have a returner that's reliable. And when you can just trust special teams that they're going to get the job done and they're going to achieve our goals. It's awesome.
Go ahead, Sean.
Harry, obviously coming off of a big win Saturday, in-state win, rivalry win, thousands of fans around the bus, all of that stuff. Is there? I don't want to assume. I don't even want to hint that Kansas is as big of a game as the Utah game. But is there a big game feeling around this weekend at all, based off of what they kind of did to you guys last year? Sort of gave you a little bit of a rude awakening to the conference and that kind of thing. Does that still stick with you guys at all, or?
I mean, every single week is, in my opinion, is a big game. The Big 12 is an amazing conference, and we've seen that. We've seen that last year. We've seen that this year. There's tons of talent in the Big 12. Talking about Kansas, they're an amazing team. Seeing what they did against Iowa State, and then talking about last year, what happened last year, they did give us that Big 12 awakening, which I think gives our team a little bit of a chip on our shoulder. So yeah, I've got a little chip on my shoulder personally, but I'm just gonna do my thing and prep like it's a normal week and go out there and play.
You mentioned all of the talent over at KU, and they got a really prolific offense that I think had one of its best games of the year over the weekend. A pretty decent quarterback. Don't know if you've heard about him or not. What's kind of the number one thing that stands out to you about their offense and just trying to slow it down, I guess?
Their offense is really dynamic. They have a bunch of weapons, whether it's through their quarterback, their receiver, their running back is really good as well. I think their O-line is really good as well. Overall, they're a well put together team, and just shutting down their weapons, playing how we've been playing ball, and getting the ball back to our offense will be really, really important for this week.
We'll take our last questions from Jake Hatch.
Harrison, you talked about the fact you have a chip on your shoulder, the term that you use. You've locked down this middle linebacker spot when there were questions about who was going to hold it down, and after Ben Bywater stepped away from the program. Is that kind of part of why you feel like you've been able to kind of lock that spot down and make it your own?
Sorry, you cut out a little bit. Can you repeat the question?
I was going to say, you talk about having that chip on your shoulder, and I just was saying you have locked down that middle linebacker spot. Does that chip on your shoulder, does that continue to push you to make sure that spot remains yours for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, it definitely gives me that drive to keep going for the future. I mean, last year, this was the game that took Ben down, so that adds a little bit to it as well.
I also wanted to ask you, from your vantage point when the defensive holding call went down, what, were you on the sideline? Were you watching that play when it all went down and everything?
Yeah, I was watching the play. You know, the refs are going to make their calls. The refs are going to call what they see. At the end of the day, I was always taught that if you put yourself in the position to bank on somebody making a call for you, bank on somebody making the call against you, the game can go either way. You can't bank on a ref making a call either way. It could have been us in that position. You just can't bank on a ref making a call. If you put yourself in that position, then the game deserves to go either way.
And one other quick one, if I could, real quick. I wanted to ask about facing off against Jalen Daniels, one of the premier talents at quarterback in this conference. What are your thoughts on him?
He's a heck of a player. Very dynamic quarterback. I mean, you watch me. He's a fun quarterback to watch. So just playing our assignment football this week will be very important, and just doing your job.
Thanks, Harry. Appreciate you taking the time to be here.
Yep.
Have a great week.
Have a good one. Thank you.